Hi guys, in this video we'll be looking at an overview of the light dependent stage, the photolysis of water, and then we'll finish with a summary.
So the light dependent stage is the very first stage of photosynthesis, and it occurs in a particular region which is on the thylakoid membranes of the grana inside the chloroplasts. So here's a diagram just to recap the structure of a chloroplast. We have two regions inside the chloroplast. We have these stacks of membranes where each stack is known as a thylakoid membrane, and several stacks together is known as a granum, where several of these are grana. And so it's on these membranes where we have the first step of photosynthesis. This light-dependent stage can be divided into three steps or three phases. First of all, we have the photolysis of water. So in this process, we have a water molecule, which is H2O, so two hydrogens and an oxygen, and it gets broken down into its component parts using sunlight energy. So the energy from the sun comes in and breaks apart the water molecule into its components. And these components include the oxygen, electrons, and hydrogen ions. Then we have production of ATP in the presence of light. And this process is called photophosphorylation. So we start off with a molecule of ADP, which only has two phosphate groups, and we add this to a third phosphate group. And in order to add these together, we have to use added sunlight. And in doing so, we form ATP, which now has three phosphates. We call this photophosphorylation because the photo part responds to the light, and the phosphorylation is because we've added a phosphate group to ADP to form ATP. So this is phosphorylation. And then the third stage of the light-dependent stage of photosynthesis is the formation of a molecule called reduced NADP. So there's a particular coenzyme which is known as NADP, and it can be reduced to its other form, which now has hydrogen atoms added to it. So it's now called reduced NADP. So forming this molecule is the last stage of this reaction. So first let's talk about the photolysis or photolysis of water. The photolysis of water is the first main step in the light-dependent stage of photosynthesis. So remember, this is happening on the thylakoid membranes in these grana, and here we have the first step of the light-dependent stage, which is the photolysis of water. And remember, we're breaking H2O down into oxygen and electrons and hydrogen ions in photolysis, and this uses energy from the sun. So to go through a bit more detail, in photolysis, a water molecule is split into protons, electrons, and oxygen in the presence of light. So we start with our water molecule as a reactant, and remember this is taken up at the roots of the plant. It's H2O, so we have two H's and one single O atom. And then we have sunlight added into this reaction to provide the right energy. The water gets broken down into the oxygen atom, of which there is obviously only one of them. And the hydrogen atoms are very simple. A hydrogen atom only consists of one proton surrounded by one electron. So when each of these gets broken up, they form an electron and a hydrogen ion. A hydrogen ion is just a proton. So we get two of these because obviously there were two hydrogens, and so we get two electrons and two hydrogen ions. The photolysis reaction is catalyzed by an enzyme, and this enzyme is found in the photosystem 2, or PS2. So here's the photosystem 2, which is this funnel structure on the thylakoid membrane. Remember, it's a funnel shape so that we've got all of the pigments funneling light energy downwards. And somewhere in here are the enzymes which are able to capture the light energy from the sun and allow this photolysis reaction to occur. The oxygen that gets produced in photolysis is used for respiration by the plant. So remember, in breaking down the water, we formed not only the electrons and protons, but the leftover oxygen too. And oxygen is an important reactant in respiration. The plant has to do respiration to provide energy and ATP for particular processes like growth or development. And so the oxygen doesn't go to waste, it can actually be used in respiration. If the rate of photosynthesis is greater than the rate of respiration, then any oxygen which isn't needed, or excess oxygen, diffuses out of the plant leaves through the stomata. So if there's more photosynthesis than respiration, then basically the plant is making more and more oxygen than it needs in respiration. So the oxygen that's building up in the leaves simply diffuses down its gradient out into the environment. And remember, the pores of the leaves are known as stomata. So the oxygen can go one of two ways, but the protons in the electrons from photolysis will be important in the next step of the light-dependent reaction, which is photophosphorylation. So we had our water to begin with. We went through a process of photolysis using sunlight. In the process we made oxygen, 2 electrons and 2 protons. And it's these products which will go forward into step 2, which is photophosphorylation.
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you are looking for an amazing A-level biology resource, join me today in my series of engaging bite-sized video tutorials. Just click the snap revise smiley face, and together let's make A-level biology a walk in the park.